From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. James, how are you today? It's good to be back and looking forward to a great conversation.
I'm doing good, Steve. How are you doing? Especially being named AV Professional of the Year.
Thank
Congrats
you.
on that. So yeah, how are you doing?
I very much am honored to be that, and I appreciate the recognition, and I also appreciate being in the company of all those who have won before, one of which is with us today. So it's a great tie-in. We get to say hello to a returning guest who we all know very well and have talked to a lot, but hasn't been on our podcast in quite a bit of time. He was originally with us on episodes 53 and 54, so one of our first early on guests, and then after that, episode 113. He is none other than Joe Way, Executive Director of Digital Spaces at UCLA and also co-founder of HETMA. Welcome back, Joe.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on. I love to see your little post. Like, anyone want to record? I'm like, I'll do it. I missed the show. It felt like you all are like superstars now, like racking up those episodes. You got to teach me how to do that because I'm really horrible at keeping up with my episodes. So, you're all killing it. So, loving it. It's an honor to be back.
Thanks. I'm glad that we were able to make it this far and have you on again. And I appreciate that praise. And you too were an AV Professional of the Year. So I
Yes.
appreciate being in the club.
Congratulations too.
Thanks.
It's a small club, so you got welcome
Yes.
in,
Yes.
and
Thanks.
it's so well deserved. So well deserved.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And it's certainly an honor. And one of the reasons why I feel great about that is because of the AV industry, and this is why we do the things that we do. And one of those things is this podcast and being able to talk to great people and have conversations to help programmers and build community. So Joe, one of the things that I've heard a lot about, and you've taken. It's been a couple years now, but you've taken a new role at UCLA, and you have certainly a very notable impact that you've made at USC, and the things that you were doing were a little bit outside the box, and doing things that were a little bit. A stretch from the traditional in terms of implementing control and programming and doing classroom systems. And at the time, that was something that was considered cloud-based. And I even remember us having a conversation about clouds on a page and how we were kind of moving away from this like fixed structure. Talk about how you've evolved that, because I know that you've kind of taken the next step at your new role.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was a great setup for it. It's interesting to think back kind of across the last couple of years. It's weird to think I've been at UCLA for 2.5 years already, which is crazy. And 'cause I was only at USC for just under four, so it's kind of like I'm almost been
Wow.
here. It won't be that long that I've matched it. But yeah, so when I started SC, I was brought in to kind of standardize, upgrade, as part of our digital transformation, our classrooms, and I did want to move away from kind of traditional stuff. We moved into server, we did kind of call it cloud before, but I think what that was really, hey, it went into a network switch, and then who knows where it comes out after that, right? That was kind of where we were in the industry. I mean, that was 2019, so that was 7 years ago now. If you think about, when we first kind of designed that. And it was kind of a new idea for our industry to think, okay, well, we're just going to pass everything, even the control. And so obviously we had used, I think we were the very first VC4 deployment to kind of have, which really wasn't cloud. It's just a server that sits on our own network, right? That and centralizing all of that, even though it was the entire ecosystem into one thing. Well, fast forward, and that was a huge success. I'm very proud of what we did there. Now coming over to UCLA, my scope has actually grown, right? So kind of sitting up a level. I figure I'm just a suit now at UCLA. I oversee all the AV departments, but it's more than just the general classroom. So, and we're going through kind of a consolidation of all of our IT services, bringing it in. So I'm really and working across the enterprise. Well, with that, we actually did an audit of our spaces and found that, ready for this, the last major technology upgrade was in 2006, 20 years ago. Prior to that, it was 1994. And there are still about 40% of the rooms that are still the 1994. Okay. That's where
That's
I came
crazy.
into. So with that, and that actually had to do just a lot of technical debt that was going on. Even the network couldn't support. So I said, I couldn't even bring what we did at USC and go put it in here if I wanted to, because the network couldn't support it. The facilities couldn't support it. Like what it would take just to screw something into a wall because they haven't updated ADA, and there's, and so as you know, it's all fine until you touch it. As soon as you touch it, you got to go all in, right? And so we were looking at like AV guy can't be the one who ends up pulling $100 million worth of triggers on other departments, right? And so we thought, how could we do this then differently? Um, Brought over my manager for AVIT Solutions, who you just beat out as AV Professional of the Year, Chi Hang Lo, over with me to from USC to UCLA, and we said, well, we're not going to be able to go and just throw everything at once, even though we just did this great pilot program. We said, okay, let's do a handful of spaces where we can kind of just push the limits. The good thing is all of our leadership is kind of at the same time. So we are going through a network upgrade simultaneously. We're going through, they just did LMSs. We're doing our data lake house. We've got an AI chief. So we're doing a lot of things, but we can only kind of pilot it. So, okay, well, let's figure out what we're going to do before we figure out how to scale it. Right. And so that's what we started with. We started with just a handful of spaces, basically. I'll call it 10, it's really six, but call it 10 because of training room. And we had to build a sandbox. And we had to do all this other stuff to be able to even just do the classrooms, right? And we said, well, let's really think about this completely differently. Because if someone were to come to us and go, yes, we want to scale this, we couldn't, physically, just the money, the facilities, all of that stuff. And what would it actually take, like for the technology? So, what if we could actually kind of do something where we built an umbrella over our current campus that could then control, monitor, do everything as long as it's got a jack or a way we can get it into getting data from it? Could we consolidate it, control it, monitor it, whatever, right? So, could we actually take this stuff and extend the life of it even further? But also then get added benefits, right? And that's where we ended up going through our RFP process, and we created what I truly consider a real cloud-based system. And while we do have some hardware that goes into it, essentially we live. It is a software that lives in the cloud. It's actually we have a home-built Bruin cloud. It's a wrapped AWS, but it does actually live in the cloud. Um, the devices speak directly into the cloud. We send the signal up to it and then down. So when people go, does it really go miles and miles to go from the laptop to the projector? Yes, it does.
Hmm.
And an almost zero latency, which is crazy. So she hired an amazing team. We snagged a lot of great people from other industries and side industries that for his team to really, to pull all this together, as well as kind of our live streaming group and our LMS group, to come up with a truly programmable system that's able to use the native communication. And it's done at the chip level. I am not the master at this. Whatever it does, it translates that and translates it into whatever the other thing needs on the other end in its native language / whatever. And ironically, it sounds crazy, but it's actually what a television does when it accepts a signal in from the radio waves. It just translates, right? You don't have a decoder. It's built in that at that level. And so we've actually attacked it from there, which allows us that any piece of data that something can take and receive, we've collected into our data lake house. And it allows us now to really do anything with anything. We also noticed, and I'm just going to keep talking until you shut me up. We noticed something else about that is that means that any other system we can bring in. So we didn't really create an AV system. We created a smart campus system. So we can integrate with every, like it syncs into our registrar's office. It syncs into fire life safety. We have, we actually have specific requirements we have to do as we upgrade spaces. It can works into our control, our locking system, our HVAC systems, all of our building management systems, our live events portal, digital signage portals. We actually homegrown it into it, so we've got our own system in there. And this is all kind of built off. And we did use the RFP winner was a product called Place OS, which is just a software. But we've been able to partner with them and build this up on above that. So it's great, and it can control, do everything for whatever manufacturer. Even though we do have specific ones we do use for standardization, because I'm sure you've talked about, you don't want to support 50 different brands, but in theory we could. So we do kind of standardize on key brands to make that area. And I don't know if I actually answered your question or said anything. So there we go.
You said a lot of good stuff, and there's a lot of stuff to key in on. I'll kind of let James weigh in on things here. Again, this sounds very groundbreaking. What are some of your takeaways from it? And you and I have talked about virtual control. We've talked about server based. We've talked about more creating more standardization and modern programming. This seems like we're creating almost like a new model for how an AV system can be approached.
I think it's, as Joe said, it's more than an AV system. Like he said, it's a smart campus. It's incorporating a lot of systems together besides just AV, which is the ultimate goal. So yeah, it's a great thing. Now I will throw my IT hat on, my security hat, and wonder, cool. Now you're making this system tie into everything. Now we got to worry about security. And I'm sure the UCLA folks have already looked into all this, make sure it's secure. But now you have a system that can branch into all these other systems, the registrar's office, life safety, all that stuff. And then where's the weak point for security on that? And are that being monitored? Is that being monitored? Is that being tested to make sure, there is no bad actors? But, this is what we will all achieve for, like a simple way to incorporate all our equipment, all our systems into one system, and actually manage it and control it and, get full life out of everything, which is great. So I see a lot of pros and cons of it.
Yeah, and I'll speak to that. Yes, absolutely. We worked with our CISO's office very closely, peers of mine. So, right, I mean, because again, now that the level I sit at the university, I have all these departments as direct peers, right? I sit in meetings with them, all day, every day, which has been great. So, but everything had to go through TPRM, third party, whatever, third party or management. Everyone knows it, even though I just forgot it. There we go. They're screaming at it, and they're screaming at the thing. And I just said it like on another show the other day. But here we go. Third party risk management. Not even have to look it up. I just needed to say it out loud.
You beat Google. I was
All
about
right.
to tell you.
There. See, I know. See, now I feel better that I said it instead of y'all saving me, because then the listeners can be like, Joe didn't even know what he's talking about. All right, and I didn't even have to look at my hands were up here the whole time. And so, but anyway, every single thing that touches the network has to go through, and very stringent with UC policies and security. And like I said, because we actually have it, we can control it very, very well. We work with our network group very well. And it's funny because I always think, like, if someone could hack our system, they would probably have no idea what to do with it. Like it's almost like, there's some really cool stuff. I wish I could screen share, but we're in the process of patenting it. Some cool things that we were able to do. For example, we go straight from the camera, and we've able to snag that signal, create our own dashboard that our students can now like, basically have a virtual version of a video producer, and that signal, by also capturing the content, can overlay and it goes directly into Panopto camera, but to Panopto direct.
Hmm.
Nothing else in between, except our own little web browser that we're hacking that RTSP stream, I guess is what it would be.
Yeah.
Um, and monitoring that in, which is really just crazy stuff. And then along with that, if you think, okay, what are other bonuses? Because it's now we're using other things. It's easy for us to overlay accessibility other softwares on top of it, right? If they as long as they have an API of some sort or some type of thing that they can, uh, however they work at. I think we're trying to do everything at the API level, but not everything. And so, we can bring all those added tools in very, very easily and layer them on as we need, on our own web control system, web monitoring. So it's pretty cool stuff. So,
No, that's yeah, definitely cool. The security thing. Now I'll throw another question at you then is because I know I ran into this. How how challenging was it to get, and even if you did work with manufacturer, to get them on board with this? Because I know I ran into some products where I was like, oh, we could do this. And they're like, no, that won't work. But they can't tell me why. And I tried to prove to them we will work and they won't even budge. So how do you get them on board with this new way of doing things?
yeah. Well, I'll say our core partner of PlaceOS that really kind of built that backbone, who won, the RFP for the software slash control slash monitoring thing, has been great. They're a very small company, new-ish, 10 years out of Australia. So they're well into this because obviously, develop it with us and you sell it to thousands of other schools, right? So there's a business side to this. That being said, for example, Crestron did win the hardware RFP portion when we do need specific things, like we got to get into Zoom. So we hack a flex and get it into Zoom or whatever, right? So things like that. They've been very, very strong. I mean, I think a lot of it because of my background with SC and saying, we're going to do this, it's like, and we're going to try to, I don't want to say hack your stuff. That there's kind of this comes with the street cred that we're going to do that. And they've worked very great with us, as well as our other manufacturers who were kind of selected as our pilot rooms, where we went to all of them and said, here's what we want to do. There's another, but there is, I'll tell you this, there is a manufacturer, the thing that I just talked about, being able to capture straight from, basically camera to LMS, right? With direct. We did have a manufacturer who we said, this is our goal and we want to work with you and you have a product and we think you can do it. And they were like, well, we don't know this. All right. So we went and did it ourselves. Right. So it's like, well, yes, you want us to build these partnerships with you and do this and use your gear and do it. Well, you're defeating the point. People know, like I told my team, I want 0 rack units, 0. And when we currently we have a half, and I'm a little upset about that. It's kind of 1, maybe 3/4, but we're getting there. We're getting there. And in the end, we might not actually ever get to 0, because it might still need somewhere to plug in a laptop, right? And you might need something sitting there. You do, right? Even though it could technically be a wall plate. So there are things where we still have work to do, but the manufacturers who have come on have said, yes, we definitely want to develop this with you. And so we have a great sandbox. We've got, the NDAs galore, with various other partners and stuff. But the ones that have come along and said, yeah, we see value in this. And I like to say probably because of the street cred we got from USC's project too, kind of goes with that. Not just, I mean, I am a crazy person just with these weird ideas, but, and then the flip side of that is we also don't settle either. When somebody says, well, we don't know, we can only get you this much. Okay, well, then you're not the partner for us. Because this is our goal where we want to go. And I think the more that we've gotten into a smart campus, the more it even becomes important to have the right partners. And more it's important to go, hey, sad to say, but there's a billion companies that do what you do. And I guarantee you one of them will want to be on board with this, and help and open up your code and give it to my people, and let's see how we can do this and make it a win-win.
Good.
The thing that I think about when you talk about this is just the concept, and then also like which came first. Was it um, the demands or the specific needs and then the concept, or was it the concept that said we can do something like this and then applying it, and then secondarily is um, being able to say that this something like this would work.
Yeah, I'll say it definitely was the concept first. So, well, I'll tell you another advantage too. I mean, I work for a state school now, which is, let's say, the RFP process is very structured, right? Different than a private school that technically could do whatever they wanted. I mean, we still did everything fair at USC. There was nothing against it, all of that. But I'm saying, but there's more freedom, right? If you want to do something or you have spurts. Well, at a state school, everything is very structured. We put out our RFP response thing was like 40 some questions people asked. And we listed everything we wanted to do. We were flat out. Here's what we want. And everything was scored based on how well you could get there. So, some of the traditional hardware companies, you know, scored well when it came to, hey, do you have any codes? Do you have certain things? But then when we got to, by the way, we want to do this, or are you willing to open up your code? Are you willing to do X, Y, Z? Are you willing to, co-own something with, et cetera? Like there were some other requirements that were out there. We're going to give research, and the answers were no, right? And so, that it allowed the concept to come to fruition because the ones who ended up winning were the ones who came to play and said, yes, 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 this is kind of cool. Let's do it. Even if they weren't the most advanced in it, there's something to be said. Like we knew we were inventing something that hadn't been done before. So we weren't actually expecting anyone to come in and go, oh, yeah, here's the product that does all the things, right? Like we knew that wasn't going to be the case. But what we're looking for is somebody who would go, let's do it together. And
Mhm.
then and we'll be honest, we can only do 50% of it right now. But we'll give you some dedicated engineers to work with your people. And when we find out who all the parts are, maybe we can create our own little subgroup together and all work and that's kind of how it came about. And it's pretty cool. I mean, the fact is, it's a for those. I mean, we are just a school. They are for-profit companies. It's in their advantage to now guess what they're going to be selling in the next. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot of the things that we've been working on and at various booths at InfoComm this year. So I think it becomes a win-win when you have great partners like that. And we have everyone who responded and won our RFP were really, really strong partners, um, and honest and just saying, hey, we believe in your vision. Can't do it yet, but let's do it together. And I think that's kind of the cool thing. And to be honest, isn't that the definition of higher education? Research and
Yep.
development, right? I mean that goes right along with the mission of what we're even here for. So it's exciting, and you know what? And to be honest, like it could have failed. Um, and I'm very surprised. Like we've got incredible dashboards. I think since we launched it in September, we've had a total of 8 minutes of downtime.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. Right. Like it's so good that the thing can't even like 999999999, like you got to keep chasing the nines to figure out when. And I'm willing to bet enough of that downtime was probably us doing it on purpose to test
Or something out of your control.
it. Yeah. So
Wow. Very, very interesting and very, very thought-provoking. And I think that's really what this is going to probably lead to, as you mentioned, is what you're doing is just going to be the beginning. A lot of people will likely play off of this moving forward.
yeah, absolutely. And the thing is it's all open source. It's all like there's nothing proprietary in it, to be able to, I mean, in a way there is, but um, if you're dealing with other people's proprietary products. But in theory, it's as we start to scale this and we look to, even scale this beyond into other institutions. I don't need, gosh, I mean, if we got management of it, we can license to everybody. Like, there's no reason anyone couldn't have this once we figured out how to really do it, and that's kind of what our team is now working on is kind of, I'll call it our pilot phase two, is we're not actually doing more spaces. We're now going, kind of, I'll say polishing up, seeing how many more systems we can integrate, really build the true smart campus into it. Like I said, right now we're working on our entire events and scheduling modules, the registrar scheduling module, and bringing that into it, and monitoring our parking systems, knowing where there's empty parking spaces, being able to change traffic lights to move. When there's a basketball game, maybe we want people to go off this way, and we can change, like, crazy stuff that we're looking to do with our AV system you know so that's what we're focusing on now, is seeing then what value can I bring to the university. Can I actually save the university tons of money, because now we don't need to buy 85 different softwares to do all these different things, right? Can we start pulling all this in together? And then that really allows for that economies of scale, right? And so that's our next focus, is going with that.
Very cool stuff. We're certainly going to talk with you more. This is probably a good place to end this episode, but we're going to have you back on the next one. So listeners, stay tuned for next week's episode. But until then, Joe, how can people get in touch with you? How can they learn more about what you've been doing at UCLA, and about some of the interesting aspects of it moving forward?
Yeah. So a couple of things. You can find me at Josiah Way on all of the socials, and a .com, or just obviously UCLA. Go to our newsroom. We've got case studies. The school has spotlighted this project many a times, as well as many of the publications that are starting to come out. You'll see some things coming if you want to learn more about the project. But you can just reach out to me. Best way to do so, either find me on LinkedIn or something, or go to the HETMA community, hetma.org, and sign up in the back-end community. Find me there. I live there.
And also your the higher ed AV media and
Oh, yeah. Go
podcasts and
listen to
so
my
forth.
podcast too. Do that. I put them out every now and then.
Fantastic. Well, look forward to speaking with you some more. James, any final thoughts and anything you want to share? And how can people get in touch with you?
No real final thoughts. Again, I think it's a great system. I think what everyone's ultimate goal is to get there. So it's good to see someone's actually moving that way. Again, if you want to get a hold of me, Google me, you'll find me. I'm out there.
Wonderful. And for me, you could find me at Steve Greenblatt on social media. LinkedIn is the one that I think all of us are probably most active in these days. And my company, Control Concepts, is a supporter of this podcast, and we provide some of the building blocks that programmers use to make their projects work. Whether you're working with a product or you're trying to add functionality, you can find more about that at controlconcepts.net. And this podcast, if you are watching, is also available in an audio form for your on the go and your favorite podcast player. And if you are a listener and want to watch, you can find us on YouTube. And we want to have more guests like Joe and find out more of the great things that people are doing out there, especially related to programming and AV and beyond. So please reach out to us and join us in the LinkedIn community that we have for Ask the Programmer, and you'll find more discussions and topics, and be able to expand upon some of the conversations we're having. And Joe is there as well, so you can ask him some questions and keep this conversation going. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Until next time, this has been Ask the Programmer.